side of both of them, you just remember how well TSM was coming back.
Yeah.
Because they did the lane swaps really well. They got the turrets down early. They took the first dragon, and they had the gold lead. It was just them probably looking at the scoreboard and seeing the big 0 under their kills that made them think they had to make a play.
So we see coming out the globals getting focused once again, and Tendudex finds 2 bans for himself right off the bat. He is wreaking havoc for GGU, just playing so well.
And just globals all day out of GGU. They just, I mean, in the semifinal games, they had very similar bans in almost every game. And this time they're just going more and more global counter, knowing that TSM had the first pick. The last time they left Karthus up because they were forcing TSM to ban it. And this is another one of those Thresh dares.
Yeah.
Last game, GGU, first pick Thresh. This time they're saying, X Special, we need you to play this.
We need you to play it. X Special has Sona written all over his champion roster this year, or at least in the playoffs. So we'll see if they do have him lock that in.
Sona, 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 Sona. And I feel like TSM plays Thresh when they absolutely have to. And this is one of those situations where you kind of have to. Unless they don't think Thresh has been game-changing enough. The way that TSM has been playing these games, they've been neutralizing Thresh in a way that his hooks don't necessarily matter. They run really strong tank lines, and they never lane against him. So the Caitlyn pick might be the most important thing for TSM.
I don't see why they should shy away from Vladimir as well, but they're probably going to leave that for the last pickup so they can round it out and really just give them, like we said, Red Team having such a big advantage in champion select nowadays just because of the way they do it.
And even though GGU just like messes up the picks of the old time, for some reason I like looked away for a second after I saw the Shaco and I saw it change. I was like, did they lock? No, they just did the same thing they did last game with the Nocturne and the Thresh. So similar compositions, 3rd time in a row.
Oh my gosh, they're going to have the dive. Does MashMe take Twitch? They didn't put consideration onto it. It's not something that Wild Turtle likes to bring out. He already has the Caitlyn. Probably not going to run some weird double AD comp, so he may have that once again. His favorite AD carry. The odd one looks to pick up his jungler now. They have the Cho'Gath, they have the Jarvan choice. He enjoys both.
And there's no Nasus around this time. Didn't necessarily work out for TSM. Cho'Gath wouldn't surprise me if they pick it at some point. Or right away as well would be another way for them to do it. And I really want to see how GGU comes back at this one. I would think, like you said, Twitch would be the logical choice for Don't Mash Me just because they had success for last time. And because these guys are just going with the same compositions that got them to this 1-1.
The lock-in, wow. They're just going to mirror comp this for themselves.
Let's do that one again, right? It's like, we like both of these
broken,
teams.
don't fix it.
Most of these teams are just having a fist fight. It's round 3. And they're making the slight little adjustments in between each games, but we are who we thought they were because they're bringing exactly the same teams over and over again.
And really leaving it up to, you know, Vladimir, if that is the choice, or just I should say Zion Spartan is huge because of what he's done for the team in the playoffs. He has super stepped up for the team and has shown that he can play at this level times 10.
It's actually kind of sad that they're not letting him play Jace, because Jace is really good. I really like
back in the day
Jace.
being like, give Westrice a Kali.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come on, man. Frog and Anivia. Yeah! It's too bad. And this is, aside from the Cho'Gath for Nasus, it is the exact same team composition that TSM ran last game. And for GGU, if they pick Vladimir, they would be a full 5 out of 5. So currently, we have 8 out of the 10 champions from the second game. And if they go Riven, it will still be at 8. But that's also the champion they picked in the first game.
Whoa! Swippity swappity. And they lock in Rumble.
Yeah, really early on in the season, Zion Spartan was actually drawing Rumble bans, and then he never really played it throughout the whole season because he's always been a good Rumble player, but it just wasn't fitting the team for what they wanted to do. It is the double AP compositions. I actually think Renekton is really strong against Rumble in lane because Rumble is actually somewhat weak to things that can jump in and attack him during cooldown windows with Flame Spitter, which are actually pretty small. So things like Jax or Renekton can actually go against him really well. It is a very bold pick to go straight into something like that, but they see the wombo combo lineup of getting an Orianna ult on top of an equalizer with Twitch going, and they feel like that is too good to pass up.
Vladimir worked really well for him last game. They were able to kind of keep the lanes to themselves, right? He was, like you said, this is going to be a harder one for Zion Spartan. They were in a 1v1 lane the whole time. The jungle pressure was in mid and bottom. So for that to happen this time, you're saying is in favor of Dyrus. So they might just want a lane swap, yeah?
I think they have to have something different planned for the lanes here because they know what TSM has been doing almost this entire time.
Right.
They're doing the 2-man stack mid, and I wonder who's going to make the first adjustment and see how it works because I would have to say, even though these games have traded first bloods with each other, the laning phase has generally went to TSM. So GGU actually just picked themselves into weaker lanes than last time, even though the laning phases haven't been going their way. So I think they would have something planned to try to get an edge early on in this one.
And we'll have to see as well. We see the teams facing off. GGU TSM Game 3 coming up. If GGU is a little more considerate of Dragon objectives in the early game. We did see those going to Team Solo Mid, but GGU was able to win last game. And not going for Dragon was something Team Solo Mid also did in a period of Season 2. They said sometimes those objectives aren't worth losing your team. So we can see the adaptation being brought from Season 2 to today to just out of Champion Select that these guys are trying to use to get the wins today.
It's all about just using your advantages at the right time.
Yep.
And in the last game, GGU actually ran everyone out the top lane, but they were on blue side. This time they're running their entire team bottom lane, but they are red side. And this time there's actually not a ward here, so they would try a blind thresh hook into this brush, but there isn't a person there.
They would try it, and they would not succeed. Wild Turtle just on the outside. I don't think he got vision there. It didn't really pop around for Zion, but they are going to go. They see Turtle, and you see Daydreaming turned around right away there. Zion Spartan's going to stay, though, so it looks like he feels safe. But everybody turned around to kind of make sure if they were going to get fought, they would be prepped for it.
Yeah, and they actually went before Daydreaming's next death sentence was up. So they were really just trying to push him out of that area right away. And they're forcing TSM to throw down a lot of wards right now because they are pressing exactly where they want to go. But because they were seen earlier by Wild Turtle, everything GGU does right now is pretty much known.
So the double hook looking to make some invasion, but really just gives them a good amount of positioning on their wards. But like you said, those wards are known, so they may be avoided by the odd one.
So the only thing that TSM was able to do, and this is the disadvantage you put yourself in when like a team like GGU will put 5 people bottom, is they leave themselves completely open to any type of counter evade and any type of counter vision. So that's why TSM has the ward on the GGU red buff, and that is something that GGU had no control of stopping and also have no knowledge that it's actually there.
Reginald will be taking up Wraiths by himself on the blue side as they get help from Dyrus onto the odd one's Cho'Gath jungle. Same thing going over for Nintendo X as we start the lanes. We do see the swap going to the top side for Daydreaming on Thresh and Don't Mash Me on Twitch. We did say that may happen within this matchup because of that Dyrus pick Renekton versus Rumble.
And finally, there's no Caitlyn mid. So it is still 2v2, 2v1 lanes, but definitely not 2v1 lanes mid. I got to see how Zion Spartan deals in this 1v2 lane, whether he can stop the shove, and whether Nintendo X actually assists him frequently, because Nintendo X is just happily going about his jungle, especially since they have that red buff ward. Wild Turtle next special know there's no threat for them to do whatever they want for this turret for the next little while.
They aren't really, oh, they did put a ward behind him right there, covered by the box, but staying up, quite aggressive. Turtle looking to hit level 2 here. Nintendo level 3 as he starts to head straight back down. He doesn't even want to put pressure towards that top side. It looks like he actually is avoiding a ward. No, he just goes for Wraiths. He had the timer to come back up. Just back and forth between the lanes for now.
Right now, the junglers are both just trying to jungle as fast as possible. They want to get as much experience as they can right now, and Nocturne is a faster early jungler than the odd one. So he's winning the race right now, and he would be able to go assist their 1v2 lanes. Both junglers are actually set up to do exactly the same thing.
So it's kind of been a shift in this, right? The 3 minute 30 second was the time for the 2v1 gank when you went in. Now it's kind of the let's protect the guy at 3 minutes 30 seconds. It's really shifted.
The ganks kind of stopped in a lot of ways. I think the buffs that happened to the turrets to make them do more damage early on in the game to champions did dissuade a little bit of the tower diving, and also teams were already adjusting to it a little bit before the changes even hit. So the dives are much more dangerous. So for instance, when a jungler and a top laner kind of group up together, it's not as easy to dive them 3v2. Also, we're seeing less stuff like Taric or Leona in the game, so they don't have the huge amounts of armor to just tank up the turrets.
Right.
And it's just an overall decrease in straight up jungle dives. And now it's more about these guys just sitting in the turret in case something might happen.
And this is going to create new openings as well, because we saw last time it was Zion, Spartan, and Dyrus to have a lane to themselves. But with the pressure, the mids have a lane to themselves, oddly enough.
And this is the thing that Reginald needs. We know that when Reggie does well, TSM generally wins. And Reginald was in that 1v2 for so long last game that he could never really get himself going. In this matchup throughout the season, Reginald has been able to bully Jinte. So TSM finding the situation again for themselves should work out.
Looks like they're getting a good push down in that bottom lane. Wild Turtling special, however, kiting back equally as well to not take as much damage in the trade. So it's really just a tug of war in these lanes in the fight in mid.
And eventually these guys are just going to start bringing 280 carries and 2 supports because these are 2-1-2 lanes. These are not necessarily junglers. They will turn into junglers at some point, but only once the laners are strong enough to save their waves because neither of these guys want to give up the turrets, and both of them are just 2v1ing, which sets up even more of a battle mid lane between Reginald and Jinte.
So we're at 5 minutes here, and we still see the junglers kind of deja vu on last game, hugging top and bottom as they assist the lanes, clearing the waves out as well. Both junglers kind of bringing good wave clear as well, so it's making it easier for those lanes respectively. Ooh. The aggression onto the top lane as Daydreamin gets ignited, the turret shot. He gets the lantern shield down, however, but Mashmi kind of forced to run around here, looks to get the expunge. Dyrus flashes out of that range, or Odd One rather, flashes out of the range.
Yeah, Don't Mashmi's expunge was actually used previously and would have been used again on the Odd One if he didn't flash away because the cooldown was about to come up. So even though Daydreamin took a couple turret shots, they just trade flash for flash and continue pushing.
Odd One, or Nintendo moving down to this bottom lane. That ward has timed out. Like we said, they're not warding too much because they were waiting for the other one. They feel very safe in the bottom. The Dustbringer onto Turtle, but they find a special. They want that low health, that no armor from Sona. They drop her with Flame Spitter, but Turtle stays in the fight. He was kind of getting wrapped up as well. Tries to get the kill, does get the 1, but it's going to be the 2 going in favor of GGU.
Nintendo Dex played that very well. He faded back from the turret to make TSM think that he was going to jungle, but then just looped around because they figured the ward in the lane was going to come out. Also, when he put down his fear onto X Special, he stayed behind him so that even though X Special flashed, he didn't break the fear tether range, and it really allowed them to secure those kills.
Flash, barrier, exhaust, and flash down in that bottom lane. They can have their way with it again if they want. Nintendo's going to forcefully push this one out, and it looks like they will get the back on.
And this is even better because Nintendo Dex just hit level 6. Nocturne ganking a lane that doesn't have flashes when he is level 6 is like candy. If TSM pushes up whatsoever, GGU will be there to counter it. I really want to see how TSM manages to get themselves out of this one, or if they even can.
We'll see if he travels to the big neon gank sign in the bottom lane within the next 3 to 5 minutes here for those flashes and summoner spells. Odd One with Smite down. He is actually not 6 yet, so Nintendo can't really make an impact in these ganks. He's got to be close, though, and the bottom lane may be his focus since he knows those summoners are down. We'll see Xpecial now putting the deeper wards out for those Nocturne ganks.
They got to be really, really careful about those Nocturne ganks, as we were saying. And in the mid lane here with Jinte and Reginald, it's a Reginald advantage so far, early on in the lane with a 7 mini kill advantage, and actually, I feel like this is pretty dangerous for Jinte because Diana's weak point is usually 1 through 6. Once she gets 6, her kill potential actually rises a whole bit. So the Reginald won that lane already by 6 mini kills, signals danger for GGU's mid.
Blue buff is up, and you can see Reginald starting to pressure down towards the bottom. The blue buff being up, the turret going down means pressure for Dragon, and they look to force out GGU here.
I'm actually really interested in the way GGU handled this one because after they got the double kill, they actually set their 80 carry and support top, which means Nintendo Dex jungle can't necessarily pressure because TSM was ready to counter that gank by sending 4 bottom anyway, so it is a bit of a mind game. GGU is at this point just losing objectives if they can't get anything out top.
Reginald able to bully that one out, and they really only have 3 there to quite a bit of crowd control and damage that would have been brought to the table from GGU. Dyrus and Mashmi now on the top. Dyrus getting some aggression on. He throws the ulti down just to be aggressive.
Yeah, because he knows TSM is taking the dragon, and he's actually checking to see where Daydreamin is as they're fighting now 3v4.
There's a Cho'Gath getting the dragon down, so that goes to Team Solo mid. Nintendo is going to be the first one to fall. A nice 4-person command shockwave, but it was only enough to lock them up and give them vision of what they were going to do next. They strategize on this one. The dissonance should slow them down, but he doesn't even have to use it. He's out of range. 3-2 here at 9 minutes.
That was just a matter of TSM having more people in the area. Daydreamin had fallen back, and that would have been a combo as Reginald just goes for Daydreamin. That would have been a combo for GGU with such a great shockwave if they'd had Don't Mash Me there to throw off his spray and pray, but he just simply was top lane, and TSM took whatever was bottom.
Mash Me stayed top during this whole endeavor, so he's 76 CS. 2 Wild Turtles 56. Now, Wild Turtle also isn't in the position of game 1 where he was doing anything he wanted, but he still is a bit safer. Mashmi and him should be matching up here soon. Wild Turtle went for the damage. Mashmi's going for the attack speed.
And a second bottom lane turret was taken for TSM. Also, they're getting enough pressure down this mid one that I think they can get it, and then they would have went on Nintendo if he didn't fall back. They may think about it anyway.
They don't have, though they actually did have vision on the right side. Maybe that's why they saw Daydreamin just on the right to thwart the gank. They're going to start to back off here. So the vision they have on Dragon in any entry there, it's been taken down recently, so there's not too much pressure to be had there, especially with the turret being down bottom. So watch towards the top side of the map, that is, for these next few engagements.
So TSM really got themselves out of a sticky situation by just opening up a massive lead. When they lost that double kill to a pre-6 Nocturne by burning all their summoners as well, it felt like it should have been over for TSM and the rest of their bottom lane gang. But because they sent so many people bottom lane while GGU was still stuck up top, they took all of the advantages completely back by just strictly outnumbering GGU. They nullified the potential of a Nocturne gank and then fought a 3v4, got everything going, and now I feel like they're in complete control.
And something different here for Mashme as well, as he's kind of considering this. He's trying to adapt as well. He went from the instant Bloodthirster on Twitch, this time into the Bilgewater.
So Blade of the Ruined King will be the thing that he's going to be going for early on Twitch here. And that is actually a good item for Twitch if he's going to be playing that assassination style. It'll give him a little bit more spike right at the start when he pops out on someone, but it's still going to be a little bit tricky because he's not necessarily that far ahead of Wild Turtle, and he may not have the ability to straight up solo it.
Let's see, Odd One moving down towards the bottom, so we're probably not going to see any team engagements here from Team Solo Mid just in the next few minutes. That bottom lane is pushing. Actually, you know, he passes Golem, so he is going into the lane. Again, back to helping farm on this one. We see Nintendo X is up top, but TSM does not, so we'll have to see if they choose to engage here.
And with Reginald roaming up top, Zion Spartan has to be very careful because he might be thinking about baiting a Nocturne gank, and they would walk themselves right into a 3v2 if Nintendo goes in.
Mashme just harassing, trying to get some damage on the minion wave as it comes out so they can keep it right against that turret. We do have, where is Reginald running around to?
He's just pressuring top lane right now.
Top,
This is a matter of Jinte having to make some pressure happen mid because TSM is spread out all along the map.
Wow, ultimate's being used just to clear. They stick with this one. Reginald trying to actually go for that dive. I think they could have crushed down Zion Spartan real quick. Jinte's trying to pressure mid. So much movement this game. Paranoia goes off onto Reginald. They found him walking away from the team. It's trying to be the pinch in the top between Zion Spartan and Xpecial coming in. They do come in on the backside. His crescendo is up. The flash crescendo. Wild Turtle just on the outside. Zion Spartan was able to win the 1v1 in the end. Actually, not 1v1. It was going to be Nintendo there. There's the shockwave to pull them back in. Turtle gets himself out. A few more shots for him, but the ball movement, Jinte just too good right now with Orianna. Brings it back for Xpecial. Where is the extra roam from the team TSM? It's going to be bottom, and they're not going to be able to bring this one back for themselves. 3-1 for GGU.
Huge play by GGU. It looked like Nintendo had lost his mind when he went in for Reginald, but he realized that he was going to catch Reginald between his roam from top to mid lane. So essentially punishing TSM for their constant lane swapping. Jinte roamed up near the end of that one and just turned it around. TSM thought they had control when they got it, but they definitely didn't.
Going hard onto Dyrus here, throws on the ultimate Daydream and taking quite a bit of damage. He tries to get out. Oh, he gets through the box. It's going to be on the Mashme. His mana's gone. He gets the hook to prevent the damage output. Turns it around. Is there enough tick damage to get down? Odd One coming out strong. Gets the feral shout out. Mashme turns around with ball protection on. There's no mana for him. The auto attack, the rupture dodge. Reginald looks to come into the fight, but he only pushes off the aggression.
The Vorpal spike AoE from the Odd One is what actually finished off Daydream, and I thought that Dome Mashme was going to be able to turn that one around on Dyrus. Dyrus got away with less than a sliver of health. It was so incredibly close battle in that mid lane, but that's one of these games at this point where it's just down to those really, really close interactions.
That was literally like a continuous fight from top to middle lane. Like it happened, re-happened, the batting order went around, Reginald almost got back up into the matchup, and now we're at this. 13 minutes here, the lane's being pushed, the carries on the top and the carries on the bottom. Wild Turtle pushing top, Reginald farming up the bottom lane.
Well, that was one of those situations where everybody wanted to fight because there was a 3v3 in the top lane, so they said, we should have a 2v2 as well. Let's just battle it out so that everyone gets a share of this pie. And TSM lost the 3v3 but won the 2v2.
We'll see. Now, core items. Let's take stock of this inventory. The Ancient Golem coming out for the Odd One. He's got that in 10 minutes, I believe, in one of his last games. And we see the Spirit of the Elder Lizard coming out for Nintendo Dex. We talked about that wave clear, the true damage just really being accessorizing to his passive attacks.
And this is a moment where Zion Spartan is in the top lane. So if TSM finds a fight right now, they would take it. But they are sitting on their own pick wards. They know that they don't have full vision on themselves. And it's a matter of how quickly can Zion Spartan get down here to see if they can actually find the fight they want.
Yeah, sitting in full vision. That dragon looking to be taken out. They are going to start damage on it. It looks like they are going to keep it in the den, though. They're not going to pull this one out, so they keep themselves in a little bit of a dangerous spot. Daydream and hit out this time. He used quite a bit to get out of that last fight, or try to get out of the last fight, I should say. Dragon was taken there. Again, GGU kind of leaves off the Dragon for a push.
And they're trying to get the mid-turret off this. I wonder if Reginald's going to go in. There's the equalizer.
There it is, Nintendo Dex on to Wild Turtle on the backside. So much peel. Turtle has nobody to help him out. They take him down, but is it enough? TSM still has quite a bit of damage with Reginald in the fray. Dyrus looks to go down. GGU has played this one correctly. They take a turret after losing Dragon, but it looks like they're able to clean up Team Solo mid. Reginald one more time into the fight. He goes through. He calls it up with the passive, and he is able to get out.
And Mashmi is on the hunt. If he can land the slow, he might go for Reginald, but Reginald does get away at the end of that really close fight. So that's a 3 for 2. GGU lost the Dragon, but got the turret, and won the fight. So if you combine all of that together, the gold is actually even or very close to it, but GGU gains the map pressure of that fight.
Team Solo mid getting engaged on that one as they try to return on a save to their turret, and that's usually not a fight you would see them getting engaged on. That was very irregular for them.
It was a really good equalizer by Zion Spartan, I have to say, because all of TSM came through that really tight corridor between the jungle and the wraiths, or the river jungle and the wraiths, and the equalizer just ate up that whole thing. And what happened was, if Reginald would have wanted to initiate straight in, and the rest of the team follow like they usually do, everyone would have had to stand on the equalizer for the full duration, which would have killed everyone.
Yeah.
So at that point, GGU got them trapped in between decisions and just decided to go. And that's one of the reasons that Nintendo Dex got so cleanly onto Wild Turtle, and they were able to win the fight 3-2.
I think you can see now Xpecial taking consideration on the fact that, guys, I think we just walked through like 4 or 5 wards because that equalizer hit us in the face. He picks up an Oracle's now at 15 minutes. We saw an early one from them last time as well. They don't want to let those advantages start to slip into the way of GGU.
And Onwon is getting pretty big. 3-0-0 on Shogath. It's a good thing he's built in that big Golem spirit to make himself even more of a tank. And there's a very interesting thing going across to Nintendo Dex's jungler, because he doesn't necessarily have the dive buddy this game. He'll be able to go on top of a Rumble ultimate equalizer or combo with the Orianna ultimate, but he will be alone. So I think at the point that Nintendo Dex can no longer fight Wild Turtle, I feel like GGU starts losing team fights, and that's actually going to happen fairly quickly if Wild Turtle can keep getting his items. So this game is close with a slight edge to TSM, but if GGU doesn't start forcing soon, it might be too late.
The gold is indeed very close as we look at that pocket change of everybody. 5,900 for Reginald, the top on Team Solo mid. 5,600 for Jinte. Those AP mids really pulling it together for their teams, and we see them doing well. They've been 1v1ing, like we said. That jungler pressure was top and bottom again, so we didn't see a lot of the early ganks coming in. It's been a lot of like 3v3 team fights that we've seen early games now.
A fair bit of skirmishing that ended up happening. So these guys have been battling out a little bit. I mean, we have 15 kills in 17 minutes, which is actually a pretty high frequency for these guys. And the Nocturne Arts are going to be what dictates a lot of these things. I think Nintendo Dex is going to want his level 11. It'll increase the range of his paranoia, but more importantly, take some of that cooldown off of it, because early game, that ultimate is on such a long cooldown to just keep him from being able to just kill a lane over and over again. But he really needs that level 11 so they can force harder onto Wild Turtle.
Excuse me. Yeah, there you go. So at 17.5 minutes here, we're looking to see if GGU can pressure TSM. You see them kind of being dictated by what GGU's doing. They say they're grouping up in mid. That's where we got to put our pressure. Dyrus, we're calling you up as well. There's going to be a fight.
This is potentially it. It's a matter of, look how much they're balling around Wild Turtle. They need to make sure to keep him alive, because he got just deserted in the last fight. And Nintendo
absolutely.
Dex was able to kill him. So I don't think either of these teams will start without something really good. My mind is broken. I thought Reginald flashed for that Crescent Strike, but he definitely did not.
No, it's just coming up. He probably would have, though.
So I've seen him do it before.
The inclination is there. We'll see if Daydreaming can thwart them off of this pressure towards their buffs here. It looks like they're going to try to get this one for themselves. I was going to say steal it away, but you don't want to steal it from yourself. Dyrus just on the outside. They may try to dive this. Yeah,
this is a corridor fight that could actually work out very well for GGU if they get the equalizer or a hook. I don't know. He can't go in over the wall for that, though.
That was good. I thought he was going to gap close from his entire team. The blue buff, I believe, it goes to TSM. Reginald has the blue buff refresh on him, and it looks like Odd One actually gets that rebuff fresh.
Absolutely. The smite steal away. That was one of those risks for GGU. Nintendo Dex didn't want to smite it. They really wanted to hand it to Jinte because he could get that 40% CDR and, again, take his ultimate down to that really low cooldown like we saw in the last game when they turned around that dragon fight. But the quick fingers from the Odd One were able to get it away.
Pushing down the lane, we're going to have to see GGU put TSM here just a few seconds ago. Somehow TSM found their way to the blue buff for a few seconds to be able to steal it, though. There's the grab onto Reginald. Do they really want it? He can get himself out with that shield. You have to be careful. That front end damage burst isn't going to do as much as you think.
they got to be real careful who they hook onto, because Thresh is no blitzcrank. He doesn't pull into the team. He pulls himself into the team, and if it's in a turret, it might be a little too much, since Daydreamin', you know he's Thresh, but he's not that tanky. He's got 57 souls. He's still sitting on just 82 armor, just that Ruby Sightstone.
Right.
If he goes and pulls himself into a tower, he's dead.
And although this looks really good, Jat, GGU's kind of, you know, we're saying they're dictating where Team Solo Mid's going, but Team Solo Mid's holding their turret while Wild Turtle is farming top pretty much the entire time. And
yeah, GGU has positioned themselves on TSM's side of the map, but it's not because TSM hasn't gotten map pressure. TSM's got double the turrets. TSM is up in gold. TSM actually just got the GGU blue buff, so what TSM is doing is they're getting the objectives when they matter, whereas GGU is positioning themselves to get objectives, but then not capitalizing on it.
So it looks like Reginald pushing the bottom lane again. This is going to relieve more pressure on that bottom lane. A Dragon coming up in 4 seconds, so they can do if they want to push mid or push top after this, or go for bottom, which they have prepped now. It's going to be theirs.
And this is what drew the last team fight out, was the Dragon slash mid lane turret push. I wonder if GGU would pull that off with the bottom lane this time.
I don't know. They have an Oracles this time.
Yeah, they will be able to clear out some of these wards here. And GGU is trying to group up in the right spot. So many wards are going to get thrown out. Reggie wants to engage in a corridor. There's a hook. Is he going to go?
There's the hook. He goes in, so that's going to be a free ult for Reggie. He gets that refresh because of the fall, and it looks like they're going to keep going on this fight. Oddman's forced to flash out, and he's the tankiest one, but everybody's facing the wrong direction for GGU. They need to turn around to get that damage in. There's the Zonius from Reginald. The special falls. They finally find it. Wild Turtle was in a great spot that fight, but nobody moved into range for him. He's forced to flash there as well. The Caliber Net keeps him to safety.
Wild Turtle doing everything in his power to get away from that one, but that is a 1v2. Nintendo Dex pulled everyone off from TSM, and he did essentially lose the duel, so to speak, to Wild Turtle, but because GGU got enough equalizer damage down, got enough shockwave damage down, they were able to turn that one again. Again, Hero Jinte, 4-0-2 on that Orianna without the blue buff, and they got the Dragon.
I'm really confused on how Daydreamin' made that out alive. He took so much damage, and then he just walked right out with that little bit of sass. 10-8. 22 minutes into this one, the gap getting closed on that gold. It's now only about 2,000 gold in favor of Team Solo Mid. However, like you said, they have those turrets, and they're getting them at the right time. So as they just push on those pressure advantages and capitalize, they still keep themselves in the lead, just down on the kills.
And we need to talk about how these team comps are going to match up late game a little bit more, because I'd previously said here that when Nintendo Dex can't beat Wild Turtle in a fight, TSM will win, which may or may not be true. It's because even though Don't Mash Me is a better late game carry than Wild Turtle, there is better dive potential on TSM to get on a Don't Mash Me than there is the other way around. So a lot of it's going to be about which AD carry can survive the dive. It's just a matter of Don't Mash Me is fighting more people than Wild Turtle is going to be fighting. So it's going to be very interesting to see which one of these AD carries stays alive and whose dive is more effective.
Well, you have 4-0 and 2 on Jinte, 2-0 and 2 on Don't Mash Me, two of the huge impact players aside from Zion Spartan and Nintendo Dex throughout this playoff match. Everybody on GGU has been showing strong, and with, you know, grabbing Daydreamin' near the last part of the season, it's amazing to see that they've been able to adapt to different styles of gameplay and even Team Solo Mid.
Yeah, this is the championship game, and everyone thought GGU was done for. I mean, keep in mind, Bloodwater left this team because he didn't think they had the potential. They have definitely proven him wrong so far in this one, because they're in the finals 1-1 and super close in game 3.
Two big items now coming on for the odd one here as we get to 23 minutes into the game. The Bulwark now finished along with that Golem. Ancient Golem item for his HP tankiness with Spirit of the Elder Lizard, as we said on Nintendo Dex, as he has finished the Locket, so they've both chosen to go for the different aura items.
Very interesting choice there. I mean, the Runic Bulwark against the double AP is the smart choice.
Right.
And since Reginald is actually not as much about the damage as he is about initiation, they're more worried about the shield for Nintendo with that Locket of the Iron Solari. Also, I feel like he just gets that Locket of the Iron Solari almost every game on Nocturne.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah, I think it's happening
You're
all
diving
the
into the fight, you can quickly mitigate that front end damage as well as save the team. He's going to need it as well for that 1v1 against Wild Turtle, as you say. He's going to be in.
It's actually another one of those things for Nintendo Dex. He's usually so far past the team that an Aegis of the Legion isn't necessarily a smart buy for him, because he's not going to be in aura range of the rest of his team. He could actually lock it before he jumps in and be like, you guys can have the shield, bye, and just jump into a fight.
Make his way in all by his lonesome. Coming up on 25 minutes, full vision on the team from wards and some cupcake traps coming out from Wild Turtle. They're setting up to give themselves a good engage on this next fight. They don't want to find GGU in the jungle. We said that. The Rumble is so strong when you can get him into a choke point. We saw that they were able to do it with it the other game as well, behind TSM's top turret for that one time.
Both of the AD carries are still trying to get to the big items as well. The Blade of the Rune King on Don't Mash Me has been completed forever, but he's just working on that Infinity Edge. He needs about 500 more gold before he can finish that one off. Wild Turtle's actually going for a last Whisper next, it seems, before he completes his Phantom Dancer. He does a lot of that. He really values armor penetration just as a player because he loves just building all offense, but also staying in the back, so he needs to be able to kill tanks. And right now, GGU trying to go in that brush, that hook not quite landing.
The no-look hook, he tried to do it. A little bit of swagger on the outside, but he did not capitalize on that. They have vision in the bush, Lantern, and the ball giving them safety, but now they're just walking parallel to TSM.
And now TSM is trapping themselves between a turret and the base, daring and engage, trying to cut off the entry points. We could very well see a fight soon.
Nintendo X and the team should stay in the choke point, but they're going to dive straight into the fight with the ball on. It's going to be a command shockwave dive going in, and it looks like Reginald is able to capitalize. The back line didn't stay with the back line, and it's going to be a clean sweep here. Reginald picking up the triple kill, the third or fourth kill rather going to Cho'Gath, and it looks like they will be able to finalize this one onto Zion Spartan. The chase will be long, but turrets will fall after this as well.
Wow, that is the fight that TSM needed. A clean ace, and we knew these fights were going to be about who can get to whose backline. GGU actually overcommitted to Turtle, didn't get him, and since they tunneled so hard on getting the shockwave onto the Nintendo, they left no shields for Don't Mash Me, and Reginald blew him up. After that happened, there was no fight left to be had. TSM gets the clean ace, and now they go for Baron.
Did Reginald even Zonia's in that fight? I think they just kept going. They didn't even have to.
He didn't need to because all of GGU's damage had left the backline, and since they killed the backline right away, there was nothing left to threaten Reginald.
All of GGU just almost pulling their hair out on the cams after that fight, but they are still in it. They still will remember to communicate. You can see them talking. You can see them typing right now. They're saying Baron might have just gone down. You saw Nintendo X typing that timer in. We still have to keep our eyes on the prize.
And man, a 5-0-1, the odd one as well. So that fight was a little too chaotic to catch there, but I wouldn't be surprised if he landed a really good silence somewhere along the lines as they were diving in. Wild Turtle got his last Whisper, which just makes it even more difficult for GGU to attempt any types of dive on top of him. And this is TSM's abuse window with this Baron buff to try to just go harder, kill Don't Mash Me again, since they actually burned his flash in that last fight as well. Just try to just exercise their power.
You know, I was talking to Bloodwater and somebody else just before Mandatory Cloud, and we were watching the replay you were doing on the Telestrator of how, you know, they were in the fight, but they missed the command shockwave.
Yeah.
And to call these fights chaotic, Mandatory Cloud and Bloodwater both said, I didn't even know they missed the shockwave that fight. We didn't even see that. Like, so these fights are chaotic. Even the players miss things going on.
And hopefully GGU realizes what went wrong in that fight. How they can't abandon Don't Mash Me in the back, because that's really the crux of their team to get the damage out. They kind of have to turn themselves into a peel composition, which will make it very difficult on Nintendo X to participate in these fights, but it does seem like the best course of action just because of how horribly wrong that last one went.
TSM going back to pushing lanes. Wild Turtle was able to do this by himself, but they leave the split push now to Dyrus. He's getting his build on, almost has the Randuin's Omen fully built, and really it looks the core items now struggling for GGU to come in here. The Haunting Guise is finished, yes, the Saracen Brace is there. Actually, the Void Staff Jinte really helping out in that mid lane.
Jinte has been having a great game. It was just that last fight that set him back a little bit. He was pulling off another one of those MVP Orianna games before that last fight went wrong, and it turned into an MVP Reginald in the odd one game right after that. So can they get the right shockwave down? There's still 2 minutes left on this TSM Baron. TSM's trying to mop up all the outer turrets as they do, taking control of the game. They got their checklist of things to do to end the game, and this is just one of the things on the list.
It's going to be a lot harder now. 2 Warden Males bought up by Team Solo Mid. That last Whisper is so far off for Don't Mash Me. He has 130 gold to his name right now in just that longsword. So he's going to be looking to throw rocks at the brick wall for a few shots here.
Yeah, his need is a lot more gold. He really needs to get a last Whisper to be able to deal with the Renekton and the Cho'Gath that are going to be near him. And he's going to have to shoot through to be able to damage the team since he has Twitch. But because of the map pressure that TSM has put up, because of the turrets that they have killed the GGU, farming is not easy for him right now.
Still got 1 minute and 30 seconds left on Baron, so we're going to have 5.5 until that respawns. See what they can really pull themselves into. Actually, 4.5, I should say. And 29 minutes into the game here. 13-10, the gold lead really increasing in favor of Team Solo Mid here. 9,000, Dyrus looking to go for the backside. Whoa. It's going to be Reginald to go in though. The ball goes down, they don't have enough of the front line to come in, and they really just wanted the pressure for the turret.
That was one of those Reggie bluffs. Just like, I'm going for it, and it was like, back off, back. Oh, they're just getting the turret? All right, that's cool, man. And they ended up getting the turret for free just because Reggie burned his ultimate cooldown, which is now completely back. So well played by TSM finishing off that turret.
You see, Mashme is going to have to focus this bottom lane. When they see him pop out, they may put more pressure on the turret. So you see how confident Wild Turtle and Reginald just got, moving themselves into the fight. Mashme is going to have to be forced back. They're calling for him into the fight. Nintendo X just dodging out the pilt over Peacemaker. TSM is able to aggress again for a turret here. Reginald trying to throw it off damage, has to throw down shield. Zion Spartan could be going too deep here. He flashes and throws down the ultimate. He is able to shut down Reginald there. They're clearing Baron off a few, but TSM have already used it fully.
And the Baron is expired pretty much now anyway, so that death is worth it for Reginald as long as they don't lose anything else, because he was essentially zoning out the entire team while everyone else on TSM was completely focused on the turret. As Dyrus was saying previously, Reggie is just the sponge for TSM. He takes all the punishment for them, and he's the one who got them that turret.
Got to be because he has no eyebrows.
There you go.
Absolutely. That's the answer. 30 minutes in, 13-11. That gold lead creeps up a little bit more. It does equal exactly 9,000 right now, though. 7-2 in turrets. Team Solo Mid pushing the advantages slowly but surely as that snowball rolls down the hill.
And even though it's only 31 minutes in, this is now the longest game of the series. So it definitely, even though TSM has a 9,000 gold lead, has been closer than the previous two games. The team comps have been very similar throughout. Wild Turtle, instead of at 23 minutes, hits his 3 big items at 31 minutes. This time he also has a Vamp Scepter to add to it. And it's TSM's time to shine. They are just going to continue to push as far as I can tell.
6-3-5 on Reginald, 5-0-1 on the odd one. And it is spread out. It's not daydreaming getting the kills this time. That did hurt GGU a little bit in their previous game loss. It's spread out amongst the carries that they need at 4-1-2. Jinte kind of pulling back the score for them there, and 3-1-2 on Mashme. But like you said, he has to finish that last Whisper soon.
And it does seem like TSM is pulling back a little bit, taking stock of what they've already accomplished and what they need to do next. There's that bottom lane pushing. They don't think the turret's going to be able to finish that off, but because they have a minute and a half on Baron, wouldn't surprise me if they let Wild Turtle farm up a little bit more. They don't need control of the Baron area quite yet because they know they have time, and they don't see much immediate threat coming out from GGU either.
The gold lead not moving as everybody is trying to just go tit for tat in the lane push here. You can see it's pretty much almost even besides that top lane pushing for Team Solo Mid right now. GGU has to be very wary. They have that open inhibitor now, and Team Solo Mid can move on that at any time.
And GGU is using this little bit of a lull to at least get some vision of the Baron area so they can't get super bluffed out by Reginald later on. But they might be looking for some kind of fight here, because if they can get a miracle pick, this would be a fight they need to get back in the game since TSM usually positions very well. Can they get a hook or just X special?
There's the hook, X special on the backside. The Rupture does grab 2. He goes right onto Mashme. There's a crescendo. He tried to cleanse it, but he just can't dance it off. Nintendo X is going to follow after as well. Daydreaming falls. It's 3-0 right now, and nobody's even under 75% health.
That one hurt. The Rupture landed on a couple people, and you knew it was over. Once the hook landed, once Don't Mash Me revealed himself, and once Reginald decided he was going to kill Don't Mash Me, it just happened. There was no thought required. They just went in for that one. They were all coordinated together, and they just pulled that one off. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to end the game here.
There's just so strong brute forcing into that fight. They saw the hook miss, and then they're like, yeah, you miss half your crowd control there, or being able to really start the fight. Reginald dives in once again, playing his hand of aggression, and he comes out even stronger for it. 7-3-7 on his side. The turrets and inhibitors now falling.
Double inhibitors down. The death timers weren't quite long enough for them to be able to push the double Nexus turrets, and having 2 inhibitors down will give them complete Baron control once the super minions start spawning, because GGU will essentially have to have a man full time on defense, and since they've been losing 5v5s all game, they're dreaming if they think they can win a 5v4 near the Baron area. So that was the play for GGU, it seems, to try to come back in the game. TSM just won the team fight hands down by super crisp execution, and now it's on GGU. Like, they actually kind of just have to push up right now or just go for Baron again. Even though it was a very low percentage play that this works, it's even lower, I think, if they don't do anything.
They do have another game, but I don't think going into the game 3 is really the one you want to surrender to. TSM did have a little bit of room to play with there. They had the strength of the first win in their mind, and they're using that momentum. GGU, we said, is also a team super based off momentum. So for them to go up and down in this is going to hurt a lot.
up and down and up and down and up and down. Every single one of their series has been 3 games or been 1-1. There haven't been 2 wins in a row in any of their series. Dignitas, it was win-loss-win. Semifinals against Curse, it was win-loss-win. And here it started loss-win-loss. So they're now putting themselves in position, if they lose this game, to have to win 2 in a row, which is something they actually haven't done within the same series all year. So they are putting themselves in a difficult position here if they can't close this one or come back in this one.
And actually, last game was the first time any team did that in NA for the 2 games.
Yeah, absolutely. The last series between Vulcan and Curse, where Vulcan won the last 2 games in the series, was a first for the NA playoffs. And another note is every single series has went the distance, which is absolutely unbelievable.
TSM looking to take it the distance with Baron number 2 of Game 3 here. It is 1-1 in the series, as we said. If you're just joining us, I'm really sorry, but I'm glad you're here because we have some Baron action at 35 minutes. 16-11 Team Solo Mid looks to take Game 3 for now. GGU has other things in mind. Cho'Gath smiting and feasting, actually just smiting it down as they have no worry there, and they're engaging for this next base.
Yeah, now is the moment. They're probably going to go sweep up that bottom inhibitor and then wait for these super waves of super minions to come to the Nexus turrets and just try to end it there. They probably have a big enough gold lead. Obviously, if TSM could get a fight at this inhibitor, they'll take it here because fighting on 1 turret is better than fighting on a Nexus and double turrets. So if a Rupture lands, they're in. Oh,
they go right in unattended. He tries to throw the shield down. They get help from Jinte. Can he move the ball back? That's going to be a great shockwave if he can land it. They don't even try to go aggressive. It's going to be behind them. But now the initiation is there. The front line can just go deep dive into the back. They got their scuba gear on. Zion Spartan is going to be there. He can get caught. They do take down Xpecial, however, but the tanks still stand. Wild Turtle going a little too deep on that one, and he gets double turreted along with Zion Spartan.
He 90 caliber netted his way into the double turrets. A little crazy. Turtle gone wild a bit, and that's actually going to delay the end of the game for TSM because they went too crazy in that fight. They didn't even get the inhibitor before they fell back. Once they lost their AD carry and they didn't kill Don't Mash Me, they delayed the ending for themselves.
It's going to get this cleared up here. We'll take stock of the items as Dragon goes down. It's going to be Infinity Edge, Blade of the Rune King, Phantom Dancer, Last Whisper, 4-item Wild Turtle coming out of his shell on the 3rd matchup here. 4-2-2, Infinity Edge, Blade of the Rune King, missing that Phantom Dancer, but does have the Last Whisper, so you can see the disparity there between the AD carries. Looking at the junglers, the Bulwark was finally picked up by Nintendo Daxo after all.
So he just went full auras after the Spirit of the Other Lizard.
Right.
He can't really make a big impact on the game, though, because there's too much for him to dive in on. You look at those items and you try to compare him to Wild Turtle, and you're like, who would win in a fight? I feel like the guy with the huge amount of multiplying items would be able to take him down. Yes, we've seen some miraculous comebacks so far. This game may remind a lot of people of the Curse vs. Vulcan game that we just saw this morning, where Curse had that one really bad team fight with a Renekton on their team, by the way. And they didn't go in together, they didn't go in coordinated, and they gave Vulcan enough gold to kind of turn it around. I don't think this fits the same circumstances because it is all of the Nexus turrets exposed. Or, sorry, inhibitor turrets exposed. And I think TSM is just going to go round 2. We messed that one up, guys. Let's go again.
So with, to kind of reflect on Nintendo Dax's items, said he did go for the Bulwark with the amount of attacks, swings coming out. The swings, just the melees. The attack from Wild Turtle, a grab onto Reginald here as they kind of put pressure on. We'll have to see what Nintendo can do. He throws himself into the fight. He does get the ball on him for protection there. The shockwave did go down. It didn't grab anybody, though. Daydreamer taking a lot of damage. Odd actually getting poked out here. Xpecial taking a lot. They're going to have to turn this one around. TSM running for their life as they go too deep in the base. Dyrus has a good amount of health. Watch out for that Reginald reinitiate. The blue buff is there. They do turn, but it looks like GGU is able to hold this one off.
The box from Daydreamin' in that fight completely stopped TSM from being to follow up. And the fact that GGU fought that so early is the only thing that's sort of keeping their inhibitors alive as they continue to try to hold off.
Wild Turtle using that Caitlyn range to his advantage, keeping safety behind even the inhibitor turret that's down. And it looks like they're going to do the same thing. You can see them setting up cupcakes all over to deter at least one of the engagements from the dives they have here. Zion Spartan looking to grab that harpoon. Jinte to put down some dissonance damage as they just keep going back and forth, chat.
Tenudex gets very low, and even though TSM is low as well, the inhibitors are what matter here, and TSM's getting them.
There we go, on to Daydreaming. He takes so much damage as Zonias comes out to not finalize the kill. The ace in the hole, so ult for an ult there, but Reginald's going to have that in a good 13 seconds. The blue buff still on him. They are pushing down onto the Nexus turrets.
And this is a little crazy, but they're getting a lot of damage down, and GGU doesn't have the ultimates left aside from Shockwave and Equalizer.
GGU throws them entire selves into the fight. Daydreaming puts himself in the middle. He actually dodges the rupture, but goes down to the end from all the damage that he receives. It's Jinte coming up with a kill on the answer. Can they get enough of those retribution kills for their teammates, though? 1 for 1 so far. Zion Spartan falls for the 1 for 2, and it looks like TSM may go back in. Dodgers get so much damage down onto Jinte. It's going to be the finish from Wild Turtle. The Nexus turret is finished as well, and the Nexus Crystal to be shattered by Team Solo Mid in Game 3.
They stuck around, and it was only a matter of time until they could crack the crystal in GGU's base. 22 kills to 14. 40-minute game, and that is now a 2-1 edge for TSM in the series.
So